All right. Hey, good morning, everyone, and I hope you're having a beautiful day. It is Tuesday, February the 14th, 2023. I mean, it is. In fact, I've named today's Daily Manna with the idea in mind that this is a special Valentine's Day edition of Daily Manna, cornered, afraid, vulnerable to the enemy's popular appeal. Don't let them get you. They've don't get the Hallmark cards. They have jacked up the prices. No, I'm just teasing. I got a card sitting right here. That anyway. Good morning, everybody, and it's a beautiful rainy morning here in Arizona, and it's a little chilly, which is nice. Well, let me say hello to Jerry and Janet, to Jessica, and to Dayspring, and to Rachel, and good morning to Jeannie and to Eileen, and to Ron and Amy, to Joshua. Hope you're doing well. Good morning to Misty, and to Pastor and Sister Martinez, and good morning to Kathleen, to Kelly Kenfield, and to Kelly and Melody Woods, to Elizabeth and Jesse, and to Barbara Callahan, and good morning to the Eddies, to Lauren and Mike and David and Levi and Valor and Haven and Everett. Good morning, Everett. Love you, buddy. Good morning to Sonia Tikach, and congratulations. She has a new grandbaby. I just got pictures this morning of her new grandbaby named Nathan, after Nathan, her husband, and Naum. And so, congratulations to Sonia, on your beautiful grandbaby boy. And good morning to Tina, and to Hattie, and to Joyce and Joe, and to Sharon Wilson, and to Darren. Good morning to Darren as well. And all right, well, let's get into today's. We're going to finish Isaiah 36 today. Again, the title: Cornered, Afraid, and Vulnerable to the Enemy's Popular Appeal. Let's read the verses that we read yesterday. Now, it came to pass in the 14th year of King Hezekiah. Again, this is a parallel passage to much of Second Chronicles 18. It came to pass in the 14th year of King Hezekiah that King Sennacherib of Assyria came up against all the fortified cities of Judah and captured them. The king of Assyria sent the Rabshakeh, which would be his chief cupbearer or his chief advisor, from Lachish to Jerusalem to King Hezekiah with a massive army. So Lachish would have been this last stronghold. So now Jerusalem's isolated, locked in, and it says the Rabshakeh stood by the aqueduct of the upper pool in the highway of the washer's field or the fuller's field. Again, this is the very same place that his father stood, that Ahaz stood in Isaiah chapter 7 when the Lord sent Isaiah to Ahaz. Ahaz was afraid of a much smaller alliance, a much smaller army of Aram and the northern kingdom of Israel, and the people were quaking, and the Lord sends reassurance. I've got you. Will you trust me? Hey, ask me of anything. Ask anything. He was standing at that same place, making his plans, looking, okay, if they're going to surround us, if they're going to besiege us, the aqueduct is where we've got to watch for our resources. We have to protect. This is our vulnerable spot. And he's planning there, and the Lord sends Isaiah saying to tell him, I've got you. And what he does is under the guise of, it sounds religious, it sounds really, really pious. He's like, when the Lord says, ask me for a sign, anything. And Ahaz goes, I don't want to put the Lord to the test, right? Sounds very pious, but it's just an outward disguise of trust, an outward disguise of piety and religion, and a refusal to actually take the Lord at his word. A refusal when the Lord says, ask me for a sign, rather than to say, okay, yes, for this opportunity for the Lord to show you he can trust you. It's faithlessness disguised in religion. And so at this place, this is the same place now where his son is standing, and his son is now confronted at this aqueduct of decision, and against a much more powerful enemy, Assyria. Now, will Hezekiah repeat the error of his father, the sin of his father, or will he trust the Lord? So Hezekiah has sent his cabinet there. Then Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, who was in charge of the palace, he was over the house. It says the scribe and Shebna the scribe and Joach, the son of Asaph the recorder, came out to him. So the Rabshakeh said to them, "Say now to Hezekiah, thus says the great king, Hamelech Hagadol, the great king, the king of Assyria, what is this faith, this trust, this confidence, this batach that you've placed your faith in, that you've relied upon, and your confidence is in, that your batach is in?" He says, I say, verse 5, your strategy, which is your plan, your etzah, your counsel, and your strength for war are only words of a lip. They're empty words. There's nothing there. Who do you rely on? Who are you? Upon whom is your trust, your confidence, he says. Upon whom is your faith so that you would have rebelled against me? Right? So the enemy here actually comes with, like we said yesterday, it's a valid question. What's the basis? This is insane. I've destroyed everybody. What's the basis for your trust in me? Or your rebellion against me? What are you leaning on? You're leaning on Egypt? Seriously, I've already defeated them. They're gone. He says, look, verse 6, your reliance, your faith, your trust is upon this splintered reed as a staff, Egypt. If a man leans on it, it will go into the palm of his hand and pierce it. Thus, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, is to all who trust in him, to all who place their confidence in him. Right? And what's unknown to this commander is his words are just confirming what the Lord has already spoken repeatedly through Isaiah. Isaiah has been saying this for a long time. Isaiah 30, verse 7, Egypt's help is futile, pointless, it's empty, it's breath. Therefore, I have called her Rahab, the mighty one who just sits, the exalted one who just sits. Verse 7, the Rabshakeh continues. He says, but if you say to me, we trust in Adonai our God, is it not he whose high places and altars Hezekiah has removed and then said to Judah and to Jerusalem, you must worship before this altar? You know, he's like, you know, your God, he's all confused about it, but likely the people are as well. The people who for generations had worshipped at the high places and had worshipped in ways that God had not instructed. Now they may be questioning, wait a minute, yeah, look at that. He removed the high places, and now look at the position we're in. You know, this isn't good. Verse 8, so now make a bargain. He says, make a pledge. Make a bargain with my master, with my Lord. At Adonai, he uses, of course, lowercase, my Lord, my master, the king of Assyria. I'll give you 2,000 horses if you have enough riders to put on them. If you could put your riders of your own on them, I'll give you a head start. Verse 9, so how can you repulse or turn back a single lieutenant, the least, the most insignificant of my master's servants? Yeah, you're trusting in for yourself. You're relying upon Egypt for chariots and for horsemen and for horsemen. Verse 10, moreover, have I now come against this land to destroy it without, and he uses the name of the Lord, without Adonai's approval? Adonai said to me, go up against this land and destroy it. Now, whether the king of Assyria has heard the voice of the Lord or whether he has overheard, perhaps it has reached his ear that there has been the words of the prophet Isaiah saying that the king of Assyria is being sent, that he is, the hand of Adonai, or, propaganda gets used. People find out what the people trust in, what the people believe in, and they twist it all up. And so, but the reality here is, right, that Sennacherib and his representative, they're saying some things that are true, like we talked about yesterday, right? They're saying things that are true mixed in with deception. It's true that reliance on Egypt is empty. It's false. It's unreliable. But the implication here is that you shouldn't trust the Lord. The Lord has turned you over. The Lord has betrayed you. He's not trustworthy. So you don't trust in Egypt and don't trust in your God. True, don't trust in Egypt. But the second thing of don't trust in your God, that's the lie, right? And the fact is they've not relied on the Lord. The Lord hasn't failed them. They haven't trusted him. He's been calling on them to trust in him rather than on Egypt. And he's still waiting. So here we come to verse 11 as he continues. Then Eliakim and Shebna and Yoach said to the Rabshakeh, please speak to your servants in Aramaic because we understand it. It says we emphatically. We understand Aramaic, right? Which was the diplomatic language of the region, of the Fertile Crescent, of what we today call the Middle East, right? So let's have some private negotiations here. Please speak to your servants in Aramaic because we understand it. Don't speak to us in Yehudit, in the language of the Jews, when the people on the wall are listening, right? The king's officials, they want to negotiate in secret. It's kind of like I know a lot of Italians, that like my mom's parents, when they wanted to talk in a way that she couldn't understand, would speak in Italian. So my mother only learned a little bit. She didn't know it, so I don't know it. So, when they speak in a language, we don't want anyone to hear. When you're with people that speak a language and all of a sudden they break into that language to discuss things or to say things they don't want you to hear. Well, they're like, can we talk about this privately? I don't want them to hear it because up until now, these officials, in large part, have been making their plans in secret. The Lord has rebuked them about it. Sorry, I touched the thing that moved the camera. Isaiah 29:15. Woe to those who go to great depths to hide their plans from Adonai. Their works are in the dark. They say, who sees us? Who knows us? Right? They had made their pact with Egypt in secret. They gave the people a false sense of security. Hey, we got it, guys. Everyone, you can trust in us. We're your leaders. We've got it. So that the people have an ease. They are untroubled because they've put their trust in the wrong place. Right? Remember back in Isaiah chapter 32, when the Lord, through Isaiah, directly addresses the women. In Isaiah 32, verse 9, he says, rise up, you women untroubled, or you women at ease, and hear my voice, you complacent daughters, but it's not complacent. It's you daughters who have confidence. You're feeling secure. Give ear to my words. Within a year and a few days, you will shudder, complacent, confident ones. Your grape harvest will fail. The gathering won't come. Because right now, the people, they're like, oh, yeah, we're just trusting the people that are in charge who are making all their plans in secret. They feel and so that's the way it's operated. So now these leaders, the cabinet, they're going, can you not talk to us, Ephraim? Can we talk in Aramaic? Can we talk in Aramaic? Because they feel the political vulnerability because their plans have failed. Egypt. Can we not talk about the fact that Egypt is been beaten? Like that we don't need people panicking. Shh. Right? Their plans have absolutely failed, and there's no hiding it now. They're surrounded. They're cornered, right? They're vulnerable, and they're terrified. The Lord had told them the plans with Egypt would fail, right? Said in Isaiah 28:18, your covenant with death is annulled, and your pact with Sheol will not stand. An overflowing scourge will pass through, and you will be its trampling place. He said again in verse 20, for too short is the bed to stretch on, too narrow the blanket to wrap up in. And basically what he was saying was, he was talking about the plans that you had made there. And he says, your plans aren't enough to cover you. You're not going to get rest and peace on your plans. You can't stretch out on that bed. The blanket's never going to be enough. Right? The plans are going to fail. So now if the people overhear the negotiations, well, there could be panic and a revolt. right? The people might overthrow the leadership, open the gates to the Assyrians. I mean, the time has run out. That the things that were done in secret, all their things planned in the depths, who sees, who hears, can't be hidden any longer. The futility of their plans, it's all come crashing down. Right? Egypt is defeated. Assyria is at the gate. The jig is up. Verse 12, so they're like, can you speak in Aramaic? The Rabshakeh said, has my master sent me only to your master and to you to speak these words? Hasn't he sent me to the men who sit on the wall, who will eat their own waste and drink their own urine with you? Right? Here's the deal, fellas. He says, this isn't just about you. He comes as a voice of the people. The Rabshakeh, right? Your decisions affect the people. The politicians make the wars or make the decisions about the wars, and the people suffer. So here the Rabshakeh, the chief advisor, the chief cupbearer to the king, bluntly and loudly reminds the people gathered on the wall of the hard realities that are about to happen with a siege. Right? We're at the aqueduct. Water's going to be cut off. So what are you going to be drinking? What are you going to be eating? You're going to be eating your waste. You're going to be drinking stuff you've already drunk and it's passed through. Right? So the enemy is here stating some facts. We're here to destroy you. And he loudly wants to intimidate, right? The enemy is here at the gate, wants to bring fear. The enemy wants to bring this division and this chaos. He wants to overthrow the king. The enemy is here, and what you had kept secret and you'd held tight, he will not, whatever deal was made, he will not keep your secrets hidden. He will not keep your shame hidden. But at just the right moment, he will expose them loudly and use them for his advantage. And he has you cornered. He has you surrounded. He wants you to believe that all hope is gone. There's no other option but to surrender, open up the gates, and let him in. And the enemy will loudly shout in a popular language, in a language that you're familiar with, to make his appeal for your surrender. I'm not just here for a diplomatic mission. I'm here for you, for the men on the wall, for the people on the wall. Verse 13, then the Rabshakeh stood and cried with a loud voice in the language of the Jews. In a great voice, he cried out in Yehudit and said, Shema, hear the words of the Hamelech Hagadol Melech Ashur. Hear the words of the great king, the king of Assyria. Verse 14, thus says the king, don't let Hezekiah deceive you, for he will not be able to deliver you. And the language for deliver there is to snatch you out of this predicament. He's not going to be able to do it. Don't let Hezekiah deceive you. I'm here just being a truth teller, says the enemy. Hezekiah doesn't, when it says he will not be able, he doesn't have the power, the capability to snatch you out of this situation because he says from the Hamelech Hagadol, from the great king, which is language that when we read scripture, we're typically accustomed to being used concerning the Lord, that it's a city of the great king, speaks of the Lord. He is the great king. He uses language here that we would usually assign to the Lord. Right? He says, Shema, hear and heed the Hamelech Hagadol, the great king. And then he says, the king of Assyria. Right? To this point, the people, the leaders, the priests, the officials, the prophets haven't heeded. To Shema is to hear and obey. It's both. It's not just to hear, but it's to hear and to do, wrapped up in one word. So he's saying, hear and heed the great king. But he assigns that title to the king of Assyria, when up to this point, they have not shemad the true great king, the king of the universe. But now, right, they're cornered. They're afraid. They're under direct threat, fear of the invasion that they can see, the destruction that's before them. I mean, they've been warned by the Lord for a long time. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Turn. But they don't until now. It's the last second. They're surrounded, and the enemy is playing on those fears. And he's right. Hezekiah can't snatch you from the hands of my king. That's true. Hezekiah is outmatched. They are, in their own strength, they're done for. Right? And now, right, in this circumstance, the enemy, as he taps into our fear, right, taps into the fear, the genuine fear, noting that King Hezekiah himself is powerless to snatch you out. Now, having spoken that which is true, he brings in the lie again. King Hezekiah can't save, and now he wants to use that fear to shake us and to take our eyes off the only one who can actually snatch us out. He says, verse 15, and don't let Hezekiah cause you to trust in Adonai. That's been the central issue all along. This invitation to trust, this invitation to wait on the Lord. Now you're really, this is the only hope you have. Hey, come on out. Don't trust in Hezekiah, and don't let him cause you to trust in Adonai by saying, Adonai will surely deliver us. That uses this, again, that word, Hatzel Yatzilenu, that snatching us, he will snatch us. Don't let him tell you that. Don't let him tell you that this city will not be given into the king of Assyria. Right? So, can't trust this human king Hezekiah. And so the easy thing to do is to say, well, I can see the king of Assyria. And that's what I'm afraid of. And will I trust what he's saying, or will I finally trust the one that I can't see? Will you depend on the Lord to snatch you out of the hands of the Assyrians? And again, the offer was made to Hezekiah's father, to Ahaz. Will you trust me? And Ahaz was unwilling, right? He gave the religious answer. This is the scary thing about religion and going through the motions of observance, where you begin to think that, the Lord said, I don't want your sacrifices. I want you to obey me, to trust me, to hear and to heed. I want you to shema. But what we can do is go through the motions of all of our religiosity. We shape God into our likeness so that we can trust ourselves, but we do it under the guise of we trust the Lord. It's a real sneaky deal. And then when that fails, so here they in their own minds, they may think we've trusted the Lord. And now look at where it's gotten us. We're surrounded by the Assyrians. And the question, will you trust in the Lord? Will you trust in his spirit? Or will you trust in man? Will you trust in flesh? Isaiah 31:3, the Egyptians are men and not God, and their horses are flesh, not spirit. When Adonai stretches out his hand, both he who helps will stumble, but he who is helped will fall, and both will perish together. The priests, the prophets, and even the people to this point have deceived themselves in their empty religion. Right? They believe that by giving God their outward acts of sacrifice and observance, going through the festivals, the new moons, your Shabbats, the Lord says, stop doing wrong, start doing right, get that stuff out of my sight. They've substituted sacrifice, they've substituted that for actually entrusting their lives to the Lord, for actual obedience. What does the Lord say to Saul? Which is better? He says, you think I want sacrifice? Is that what the Lord wants? Or does the Lord want you to shema? Does he want obedience? To obey, to shema is better than sacrifice. To heed, to pay attention, to shema is better than the fat of rams, right? He doesn't want that. So the danger becomes, right? The temptation in this moment for the people is they think that because of their empty religion, they think they've done it. We've done everything God wants us to do. And now look where we're at. And it's in that moment when you're cornered and you're afraid and you begin to doubt and you're so confident that you've done it the right way. The enemy is at your gate, and he starts to go, you can't trust in your God. Your God hasn't come through, right? Your God hasn't been faithful to you. Look where you're at. And the temptation in that moment that's been forged by false religion, empty religion, comes through with it gives you the lie that, well, yeah, God wasn't faithful, but God has been faithful. It's we who haven't been faithful, right? The religious leaders, the priests, the prophets, they're drunken on pride and on their observance, and they're missing the voice of God and the heart of God. And so at this moment, in the face of the enemy, in the face of their fear, they're susceptible to the lies of the enemy. They're vulnerable to this popular appeal in the language they can understand to finalize their abandonment of trust in the Lord. They haven't trusted the Lord in a long time. They abandoned trust, but to fully say, you know what, yeah, we will abandon him. That's where the temptation is. But still, in his graciousness, right, God has been slow to anger. He continually has repeatedly called his people, reassured his people, right? He told them in Isaiah 31, return, verse 6, return to the one from whom rebellion is so deep, children of Israel. In the day you do, everyone will cast away his idols of silver and his idols of gold, which you made for yourselves with your hands of sin. And then Assyria will fall, not by a sword of man. So a sword of man will not devour him, and he will flee from the sword. His young men will be put to forced labor. Are you going to trust what the Lord has been saying? Or are you going to trust what your eyes are seeing at the moment? I'm surrounded, and there's no way out. In the face of your fear, in the face of your disillusionment, in your face of the lie that God failed you, as the enemy shouts out, your God sent me here. He failed you. Don't let Hezekiah deceive you. Don't put your trust in him saying he's going to snatch you out of my hands. He says, verse 16, he says, don't listen to Hezekiah. Don't give him your Shema. Because this is what the king of Assyria says. He says, make peace with me. And literally what he says is make or do toward me the bracha, the blessing. Don't say Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. He says, don't say blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe. Do that to me. Make to me your bracha. Make your blessing to me. He says, don't listen to Hezekiah. For thus says the king of Assyria, make your blessing to me. And come to me. Come out to me. Come forth toward me, he says. And then, each one, will eat from his own vine. And you can't see it in the English, but and each one from his own fig tree. And each one will drink water from his own cistern. Until I come and take you away to a land like your own land, a land of grain and wine, a land of bread and vineyards. What a sneaky liar, right? He says, if you trust in the Lord, you'll be hemmed in. You're going to be eating your own dung, drinking your own urine. If you trust in me, come to me, he says. And each of you will eat from his own vine, from his own fig tree, each drinking water from his own well. In the days of Isaiah, there was a contemporary prophet of Isaiah, Micah. It says in Micah 1 that the word of Adonai that came to Micah the Morashtite in the days of Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, visions he saw concerning Samaria and Jerusalem. So this word had come, the word of the Lord through Micah, that at the end of days, the mountain of Adonai's house will be established as chief of the mountains, will be raised above the hills. People will flow up to it. Then many nations will go and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of Adonai, to the house of the God of Jacob. Then he will direct us in his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For Torah will go forth from Zion, and the word of Adonai from Jerusalem. He will judge between many peoples, and decide for many mighty nations far off. They will beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning shears. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, nor will they learn war again. Verse 4, but each man will sit under his vine and under his this fig tree with no one causing terror, for the mouth of Adonai Tzavaot has spoken. Though all the peoples will walk each in the name of his God, so we will walk in the name of Adonai, our God, Eloheinu, forever and ever. But here the enemy comes and wants to co-opt the promises of God. Come to me, make your bracha, say, blessed are you, great king. Right? And I'm going to give you the vine and the fig tree and water until I come take you away. I'll take you to a land like your own land. I'm going to take you into exile to a land like your own land, the land of grain and wine and land of bread and vineyards. I'll take you to a land like yours. Not that you'll be in captivity, not that you'll get to enjoy it. It's a sneaky lie. It's a sneaky deception. But then here comes a serious fatal error. Verse 18, he continues, I'm going to beware that Hezekiah does not mislead you by saying, Adonai will snatch us, will deliver us. Has any one of the gods of the nations delivered his land from the hand of the king of Assyria? He says, why don't you learn from history here? We've overcome all of them. No one's been able to stand up to us. He says, verse 19, where are the gods of Hamath and Arpad? Where are the gods of Sepharvaim? Indeed, where did they deliver Samaria? When did they deliver Samaria from my hand? Who among all the gods of these lands have delivered their country out of my hand? So will Adonai deliver Jerusalem from my hand? Right? Each of these nations has its distinctive gods, and he says, look, no one stopped me. You think your God is going to stop me? Do you really believe your God? And he names the name of the Lord. Can deliver Jerusalem from my hand. So here's the messenger of the king of Assyria. Do you really believe that Adonai can deliver you from my hand? When the messenger of the king of the universe has already said, here's what's going to happen. Right? Back in Isaiah 31:4, thus says Adonai, as a young lion or a lion or young lion growls over its prey, though a company of shepherds is called out against him, their voice does not disturb him, nor their voice upset him. So Adonai will come down to fight, and it says, against Mount Zion, on its hill, against her heights. The Lord had already said, and he had said earlier, that it was him who was going to be surrounding Ariel, surrounding Jerusalem. The Lord has already said that he would do this, and nothing in man's power is going to stop that. But he also said this, that he will deliver Jerusalem. Verse 5, it says, like hovering birds, so Adonai Tzavaot will protect Jerusalem, will defend her. By protecting her, he will snatch her out, it says. He will extricate her. He will deliver her. By passing over, he will save. Right? The messenger of the enemy has come with an argument to demoralize and to undermine any trust in the Lord. Are you going to believe the messenger of the enemy, or will you believe the messenger of the Lord? Will you believe the word of the Lord that has come? And again, the enemy has come. He's mixed in his own deceptive fear-mongering, his own arrogance to bring confusion, to call you to surrender. He brings truth, lie. Truth, lie. Over and over. That's the tactic, right? So he offers this out, verse 21, but they were silent. They did not answer him a word, for the king's commandment to his council here was, do not answer him. Then Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, who was in charge of the palace, and Shebna the scribe, and Joach, son of Asaph the recorder, came to Hezekiah with their clothes torn, and told him the words of Rabshakeh. So now, the sequel, right, at the aqueduct of decision. What will Hezekiah do? Will he go through the motions? Will he say, well, we can't show weakness. We have to stick with the decisions we've made. This is what we have to do. Will he stick with a form of outer religion? Keep up a good face? Will he repeat the faithlessness of his father under the guise of religious devotion? Or will he finally call upon the Lord? Will he finally lead the way God has called him to lead? Will he finally lead the people and lead the nation to 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 trust in the Lord? The Lord is so graciously, they're surrounded, and now the Lord gives them another opportunity. Will you trust in him? Amen. And so that's what we'll look at tomorrow is Hezekiah's, over the next couple of days probably, is Hezekiah's response. All right, well, let me see anybody that I missed. Did you, Hattie, did you not get the text? Did the text not go out? Oh my goodness. I thought I hit send. I'm going to send it right now and everybody will get it late. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. Oh, I did send it and it told me I had too many characters. My apologies. All right. Sorry, the text didn't go out. Here, I'll send it now. Sorry, Hattie. Sorry, the text didn't go out. All right, there we go. Oh, my bad. Good morning. Good morning to my sister Maria. I love you, sis. Good morning, Ron and Amy, and to Elizabeth, and to Joshua. And let's see, anybody else here? I think I said hello to everybody on the front end. Doesn't help that I didn't send the text out because now we've all become accustomed to being reminded by the text. All right, well, for all those who are watching later because I didn't send out the reminder on time, my sincere apologies. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, shalom. Have a beautiful day.